Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark, Season 3, Episode 5. And I have a young man on here that I've been wanting to talk to for quite some time, Mr. Mike Dawes. Thank you so much for making the time, man.
Oh, dude, pleasure. It's so cool to meet you. And you called me a young man. So...
Younger than me.
Oh, really? How old are you?
42.
Oh, okay. No comment.
So it's funny, man. Joey was just on. So this is like about a year ago, I started doing this.
Yeah.
And Joey was my first guest. So I was like, hey, let's do it again because it's a year later. And I had no freaking clue it would last this long. He's like, let's do it, man. And when we were doing it, and I said, I just had a birthday because I just bought a custom shop Strat. I sold a couple guitars because it's been like a bucket list guitar for me.
Dude,
and
for me as well. I need to sort myself out and actually get.
Oh,
I've never owned a Fender. It's crazy.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, or a Gibson. I'm terrible.
Well, you have a lot of other cool instruments though that you play, so we'll get into all that stuff.
Sure, yeah.
But Joey was like, how old are you? I was 42. He was like, what? I would have thought like 28, 29. I was like, no, dude, you know me. I've known you for like 8 years. I have a 10-year-old daughter.
Well, that'll do it. The kid thing will give it away, but you don't look 42 at all. I mean, I've just had laser eye surgery, but I think I can see lines pretty well through this whole internet medium. And yes, you're a youthful looking chap. You must muster it.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. That's very kind of you. How does that work for you? Did that work well, getting the surgery? My wife's thinking about doing that.
Yeah, so it was weird because I had to have like a weird version of it. So most people get like LASIK, which is just zap, fold, done. I don't know if anyone watching this is squeamish. It's just pretty quick recovery, but I had this kind of brutal month-long kind of proper like scrape it off and let it all naturally grow back, and that hurt a lot and it took a lot of time. So yeah, I did it about 2 months ago and I've just about got the vision back, but it's great. Everything's awesome. I didn't have a bad prescription to begin with, but it was just for when I was on stage, I would always just take glasses off and just play because I could see close just fine. But then I'd look out at the audience and it would just be like, oh yeah, like I literally have no idea. You with the hand gestures, like, are you flipping me off? Are you saying, woo? I don't know. It was yeah, I figured it was, a bit of self-improvement during the pandemic, as we have a lot of free time. So why not, right?
Yeah, that's great, man. Well, Mike, I wanted to start off. So like, this is like a fun question that I ask everybody. This is always my first question to all my guests, but
okay.
I feel like there are very specific moments in our lives where music enters. And it's like, for me, it's very, very pinpoint. And I know this is kind of like, it's a like an arc on a conversation that people usually ask, how'd you get into playing guitar? But I don't mean that. I mean like almost like, when is the first time you heard music or something that really kind of sparked your interest in wanting to pursue it?
Yeah, it's very vivid, actually. It was the movie The Blues Brothers.
Okay.
So it was a few movies. So it was the movie The Blues Brothers, which was, my dad plays the trumpet, kind of hasn't really played for many years, but he was really into that kind of scene. So The Blues Brothers was kind of in the same way that Spinal Tap would be my like, oh, you have to check out this movie. Maybe The Blues Brothers was his. I don't know. But anyway, it was on VHS or whatever. And I remember just the whole ba, 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 da, 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 all those lines and thinking it's cool. And then simultaneously, my mum had this old keyboard in like the attic. And I remember hitting all the white keys in a row and getting Another Day in Paradise by Phil Collins. And bing, 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 ba, ba, bam, bam. And I thought, oh, wow, like finger, button, feelings. That's a really cool thing, right? And then I saw Rocky IV with Vince DiCola's soundtrack with the Rocky theme and Robert Tepper, No Easy Way Out and all that kind of stuff. And because all of those, all the 80s rock harmonies are quite simple to understand. Not Vince DiCola's stuff, he's all over the place. But, it's very much just like E minor, D, C, D, kind of Iron Maiden, kind of formula. Right. So it's very easy for a kid to kind of like play along to on this thing. So there wasn't really an acoustic influence for many, many, many years. It was just, movies and feelings and rock and roll and, the stuff that makes kids want to do something, get a hobby, was fun. That and skateboarding culture as well was a big thing later on.
So what were you listening to? So like early on, I mean, when I think of like getting into the skateboard culture, I think of like Sublime and like all the ska punk stuff. Like,
yeah.
What were you listening to at that time?
So, well, because we've just established that I'm 10 years younger than you, right? So my introduction to skateboarding culture was basically like Blink-182 and little skate video online, and then obviously the Tony Hawk's games, or Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games. So all the soundtracks of 1, 2, 3, 4, Underground and all of that. And then it was the GTA games came with their soundtracks and all the radio stations on those games. Like pretty much everyone my age knows all the lyrics to Freebird, not through guitar, but through GTA, It's like, it's this weird thing how there was this moment in time where, I don't know, like everyone's music tastes just aligned with these massive world-conquering video games. And the same thing slightly later with the Guitar Hero games, right? I was a little old for that when they kind of got big, but I mean, that's how most people in the mainstream discovered bands like Dragon Force and, even like Lamb of God and bands like that, anyone who had a song on this video game that wasn't into like metal at the time was, super inspired by that. It was pretty, it's such an interesting time to be alive, for sure. I think it's simpler.
Yeah, man. So are you still like a gamer? Do you still, because I mean, I love games.
Yeah. I am, but I'm not. I mean, I don't play much. I maybe play once every couple of weeks with a friend that I went to college with or university with. We play Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront 2,
nice,
which is fun, but only because we've leveled up our guys to such a point where it would be stupid to stop, right? It's like we've come this far. We need to keep going every week during lockdown, But a bit of GTA every now and then. But recently, actually, I've been on Discord a lot with some other fingerstyle guitar players, and we've been playing Worms.
What's that?
You don't remember Worms?
No, is that like? Do you mean like the old school like Atari game?
No. So Worms is like a 2D kind of thing with a map, like a battlefield, and you just kill the other people's worms, and they have little classic weapons like the holy hand grenade and the old lady. You release an old lady and she walks and explodes, and it's amazing. It's so much fun, honestly. You don't know Worms, dude? Yeah.
No, I don't. It's funny. I just got I don't get to play all the time. I don't have a lot of time as a dad and everything. But like when I get my time to play, like I just started playing Witcher 3.
Oh yeah. I've never played that, but I've heard it's like the best of the Witchers.
Yeah, everybody. So I was talking, Zach from Mythos Pedals loves that game, and I asked him, I was like, which one should I get? Like, he was like, get 3. That's the best one. But it's so expansive. Like, this is how much less time I have as an old man. It's like I don't have the patience. I want to be walked through a game, like sometimes like the open world environment. Like I played Skyrim, whatever, when that first came out. That was a blast, but that seemed easier than this. Sometimes, dude, like an expansive world is just way too much for my mind.
Yeah, I used to love the games that were relatively limited. I remember, I'm going to sound like a right Star Wars geek now, but Knights of the Old Republic was a good one. And games like that were basically open world RPGs, but kind of on rails to an extent, and like Mass Effect and things like that. But yeah, I probably would have been more of a gamer if I didn't start touring so much, because once that happened, I didn't really have time. Although I have this long-term session gig with the frontman of the Moody Blues, a guy called Justin Hayward, and because of that, we have the infrastructure to have a big tour bus and all of that stuff, and we have a crew. And the guitar tech always brings out Mortal Kombat and Mario Kart and things like that, and we set it up on the bus. And after the shows, everyone just kind of competes, and there's some various in-jokes that I probably shouldn't mention on here about how well one would perform on a game like that under certain circumstances. It's a good time. Yeah, Mortal Kombat on the road is a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. All right, well let's go back. So those early records. So you're exposed to some music through GTA and Tony Hawk and stuff.
Yeah.
When did you start to like get interested in because like your style of playing is so like I could never in a million years do what you do, because I don't. Same thing with my open world video game. I don't know if I have the patience to like have the fortitude to follow through on something that intense. Like,
right, okay.
So like when you started playing, like were you already interested in doing arrangements for solo guitar, or did that develop over time? Like were you like
It was a weird thing because I didn't start on acoustic at all. I was just like a rock metal kid at school. I was learning my Metallica and Guns N' Roses like everyone else. But then at the age of sort of 17, you know, I switched to acoustic because I just felt you could do so much more with it. You know, you could if you ditch the pick, you know, I mean, I still play electric, especially when I'm off the road. It's a lot of fun. But when you ditch the pick, suddenly you've got, you know, 5 picks or 4 picks, right? And you can play the bass line and the harmony and the melody and the percussion, because it's a hollow box, you know, the acoustic. And suddenly I started doing that. Just it was really bad, and, you know, terrible songs, but very much early experimenting. Thankfully, it's not on YouTube, the really early stuff, but because YouTube was just starting then. And people started saying, like, that's good, approval, here's £1 for your homemade CD. And suddenly I was getting like actual responses, whereas before I was just in metal bands at school playing the local like village hall. And just people just kept liking it, and then it just expanded, and I kept getting gig offers and saying yes to them, and then I just never stopped until COVID. But yeah, in terms of having the patience to arrange like that, it wasn't really any more patience needed than trying to write a song in a band with a bunch of musicians who you could only see once a week, and, you know, everyone was at school and busy and stuff. You know, it's like when you're solo and you're in control, it doesn't actually take that long in terms of net time. I mean, hours at the instrument, yes, but net hours, not at all. And when you get really enthusiastic about a piece, it's just like tunnel vision. You know what it's like when you're creating something. It's like the whole world shuts off. You forget to eat sometimes, or I do. Yeah. And I go until it's done. You know, that's what happened with one of the most recent songs I did, which was a Eddie Van Halen tribute. It was just like tunnel vision, 3 days of just non-stop playing, and then fucking 4 days went by, and I had this finished arrangement. You know,
man. That's crazy. So when you're young and you're playing electric in the you know, with your high school buds, are you like, you're writing original music at that time as well as playing covers? Like,
it was all original to begin with, yeah. Original music is, you know, I guess where the passion is, but it does change. The arrangement thing, I only started doing because it was weird. Covers weren't even on the radar, and then YouTube happened. And then I saw Andy McKee, right, who was like really the first known modern fingerstyle player on people's mainstream radars through YouTube. And he had like 3 videos out. I think it was like an original called Drifting, an original called Rylin, and a cover of Africa by Toto, right? Way ahead of his time, considering that is like a total meme now, that song.
Right.
And I just assumed that was the done thing. Oh, 2 originals, 1 cover. That's how people do it. And then that's kind of the formula I've followed ever since. I have on all of my albums like 2/3 originals, 1/3 covers. It's just like, that's how I ended up being wired. So, and that's another point. It's really interesting how at some point you will get to realize that you are free to make any creative decision, and you don't just have to do what someone else before you has done. And it took me a while to actually realize that, like, oh, you can use crazy weird guitar pedals on acoustic guitar. Just because someone else hasn't done that before doesn't mean that you can't try. Right. You know, and that kind of rewiring a little bit later on definitely led to a lot of interesting opportunities and creations, for sure. Cross-genre stuff, you know.
Yeah. So how much does that gear stuff inspire you, and how much does it inform what you're deciding to play?
Interestingly, like, well, with the acoustic stuff, everything's written just on the guitar with a tone wood amp. Where is it? I have a tone wood amp around here somewhere. Hold on. There's a little box that says unplug on my couch. So in that is something called a tone wood amp, which sticks to the back of your guitar with magnets, and it makes reverb come out the sound hole, which is insane. It's like witches inside your guitar. So that's how I write, and I play everything, right? And then when it comes to live, it's like, okay, well, let's do pre-production. Let's think, like, how can I enhance this piece live using gear? So there are a few exceptions, but typically everything's written on the guitar. And then maybe I'll know whilst writing, oh, this will have some delay on it, or this will have a low octave on it, or something like that. Like a case in point, this Van Halen jump arrangement. I was in the studio, and obviously there's a synth solo in the song. So I just brought a synth pedal to the studio, and we were like, let's hopefully make this sound cool. And then we just tinkered until it sounded cool, you know? So it's not like there's an idea, and then you just have to kind of figure it out on the fly during that kind of pre-production phase of either the creation or the performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, Meris Enzo, great pedal, but just hard to control on an acoustic without a shit ton of compression.
I bet, man. Those pedals are so crazy. Anytime I've plugged into one, I'm like, I don't even understand what's going on here. Like, just all I can do is just twist knobs and see what happens. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
that's exactly what we did. I would never take it on the road with an acoustic, and that's no disrespect to the pedal. It's a great pedal. It's obviously designed for a mono signal. And on acoustic, you're picking up all the resonances of the top and everything like that. So I'll pick a note and it'll just shoot up in volume radically compared to something else just because of how the pickup's positioned under the bridge. And so we had to just use a shit ton of compression, loads of reverb, and we ended up with this amazing sound, which you can, yeah, if anyone wants to listen to the Jump cover that I did, it's, yeah, that keyboard solo, you see me put the pedal on and hear that kind of wishy-washy kind of thing. It's fun to experiment, man. Like we just like toys. I'm surrounded by toys in here. It's great.
Dude, me too. Like literally on my pop
Yeah,
Funkos.
yeah. I see.
But,
What's that? Just Funko Pops everywhere.
yeah, I'm a Marvel nerd too. Like I grew up.
Same. Okay.
I grew up reading comic books, and like when Deadpool came out, the first Deadpool movie came out, it got me back into it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, I forgot how great it is. Like, and like just, and my wife's always like, dude, like you should be reading. Like, even if you're reading comic books every day, like it's reading, man.
Well, hey, I mean, I was 18 when the first Iron Man came out, so in terms of the MCU, I'm like the target kind of market, right? Really. So I kind of grew up with all of that and a few comics before, but I don't know. I don't think comics were really big in my upbringing, but I'm one of those posers, you know, the whole movie guy rather than the literature.
Yeah, but man, it's, you know, for me, like those movies are so good. Like they did that so well, and they're continuing to do it well. It's just like, have you seen any like the new Disney shows like
Yeah.
WandaVision and stuff?
It's obviously the only reason that anyone has a Disney Plus subscription.
Dude, Loki was so good. Like just the first episode, I was like, oh, this. And I thought I loved WandaVision, but I was like, this thing is beating.
Okay. Not
so,
bummed about there being no jet ski.
No, I'm not bummed about that, but I feel like I'm so interested to see what's going to happen with where they're going to take that stuff, because I mean, I love Tom Hiddleston. I'm so glad that he's still able to be like surviving in that universe. But anyway,
my girlfriend at the time was like, I took her to see Infinity War, and she has a huge crush on Tom Hiddleston, and obviously that opening scene, he just like gets choked out and dies, and she looked at me just like, why would you take me to see this? Like, because I'd already seen it. I was like, but yeah. No, I love it. But big respect to those movies. I did a music video in an art gallery in Bristol here, surrounded by signed Stan Lee canvases of like the song's called Push, and it has they sell these giant size like 40-inch like amazing canvases of classic covers. And they're all signed by Stan Lee. Yeah, and you can get them. Fossil Fine Arts, the name of the place. It's pretty wild.
Whoa, dude, that's crazy.
Nerd heaven. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right, let's get back to music. Don't get me derailed. I'll talk about Marvel this whole time.
I just like, it's nice to talk to a human being, because we're still in relative lockdown here. I've got my I've got to be very careful because I've got a US visa appointment coming up, and if I test positive upon entrance, then that's the tour gone. So I'm kind of being very much a hermit out of choice at the moment.
And that starts in September over here, right? From what I remember seeing. Okay.
Yeah, so that's one of the tours. Justin Hayward from the Moody Blues, I play in his band, but Mike Dawes, the guitar player, is the support act. So it's like double duty. And those tours, I've been doing them since 2013 with him. And they're amazing because I get to play my own music to people, but then also play Nights in White Satin and these classic rock songs, you know, to this amazingly loyal and wonderful audience. But Justin and I are the only people outside of the States. So they're all waiting for us to get our visas and get there. And we've got our appointment coming up, and all should go well. But, you know, I'm taking every precaution, so I'm not the one that messes it up.
Yeah.
That would be a tough situation to be that guy.
What a weird world we're living in right now, man. It's just like I am so, right before lockdown happened, I'm a big Pearl Jam fan.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
And right before COVID hit, my best friend and I, and a couple of our friends, we had tickets to see Pearl Jam. They were coming to Baltimore. And I was like, oh, maybe it'll happen. Like, because it's not totally locked down yet. It's not really over here yet. It was in March. Nope. Yeah, Pearl Jam canceled everything, which, you know, respect to them. They were like one of the first bands to close their tour down because Seattle got hit really hard, really early.
Well, I was in Seattle in early March.
Oh, dang. Okay.
It happened. So I was doing a tour called International Guitar Night. It was an amazing tour. Like, I'm really grateful that was the last tour because we really went out with a bang. It was with 3 other guitar players, guy from Turkey, Cenk Erdoğan, guy from Finland, Oli Soikeli, and the guy from Hawaii, Jim Kimo West, who actually just won the Grammy for New Age album.
Oh, nice.
So we did this kind of really cool guitar tour where we were all jamming with each other, like different cultures and styles. Anyway, I ramble. We ended up in Oregon and Washington in early March, and the last 3 shows, we were noticing that although the shows were sold out, there were less and less people coming.
Wow.
It was this whole like people choosing to stay at home, and we were doing so many internal flights that towards the end of the tour we were just seeing like, oh, there's 2 people in masks, oh, there's 5 people in masks, oh, there's 50 people in masks, oh, and it was getting really weird. And then the flight home from Seattle to Heathrow on March the 9th or 10th, I was like, there was me and one other guy on the plane. It was crazy, like transatlantic flight, like mad, and he was dressed from head to toe like freaking Breaking Bad. Like I felt like felt a bit underdressed.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy, man. That had to feel like The Walking Dead. Like,
well, no one knew, you know, no one knew what the situation was. But the shocking thing was landing in the UK, no one gave a shit about anything because it was this weird period where it wasn't a global pandemic yet.
Right.
But as someone who is not, I like to think that I'm relatively okay at critical thinking. Like, you could tell that this was going to become a global thing because air travel, right?
Yeah.
And it was already in Italy, it was already in the States, it was everywhere, and it had already started to pop up in the UK. And I got back, no precautions, no regulations. I got home, my parents were hosting a dinner party, and I was just coming from this West Coast world, being like, "What are you guys doing? Like we need to go and get like cans of baked beans." And, you know, like, no one knew how serious it was, you know. And so yeah, that is a bit of a regret of last year. I feel like if people had come together as a global community and just kind of been like, you know what, let's just take a month, close everything, and then everything's gone. But that's incredible wishful thinking. It would never happen.
No, but you know what, man? Like, we're in a moment right now with this variant that like we could do that. We could be like, learn from our mistake. Like,
well, I feel for you guys with the Delta because we you know, it started in India, came to the UK. So we had it ages ago, and that's it, and it really fucked us up quite a bit. And I'm looking at my friends in America just going about their business, thinking like, the same thing is gonna happen over there. Why don't you guys just like preemptively just cool it? And you know, and this happens time and time again. But you know, it's the same thing with like climate change and things like that. I mean, people won't act until it's like handing in your dissertation at college. You know, it's like, I'll just wait until like the morning of, and then I'll just bust it out and get, you know, that's just human beings, and you know.
Well, I mean, at one point, I mean, this is where I was going with the whole Pearl Jam thing. Is like, I mean, I just want to get back to like seeing shows, you know, like, because I don't really necessarily miss humping my gear around on the weekend for $100 for playing for 4 hours. Do you know what I mean? But like, I miss going to see music. Like, Ariel Posen is supposed to be here in September, and I'm like gonna go, but I'm like, I hope I hope it still happens. You know what I mean? Like,
I think I played a festival with that guy once. I just met him at breakfast briefly, but he's amazing. Yeah, what a great player. There's some amazing guitar players out there right now. Yeah, I saw your channel. I looked through the other people you'd had on here, and you've had a lot of amazing people. I saw Chris Buck you've had.
Yeah, he's
pretty close to here, nice. Geographically, and Danish Pete, who's also pretty close to here geographically. Yeah, good dudes and amazing players.
Yeah, it's so funny too. Like, the one ad that always runs with you and the Andertons guys with the Tonewood thing, and how they're like, and you're like, see, I told you.
Yeah.
Every time I see that, like, I've seen it a million times, but
really? I don't have anything to do with like ads, right? So if that would be something coming from this company, but that's so funny that's
I get marketed to all the time with that.
Yeah, and, I guess you're like the target guy, like just constantly talking to and about guitar.
It's that if you look at my Instagram algorithm, if you just like hit the magnifying glass, it's basically all guitar stuff and dogs.
Okay,
That's all it is.
That's a really good way to live. Yeah, mine's pretty much the same. It's guitars, but then there are some guitarists who I just have to mute and I just have to like not look at because they'll make me feel so crappy. And then
come on.
And there are some guitar players who there's this weird thing. So you could take two guitar players and they're basically playing the same thing, and for some reason one of them will just piss me off for no logical reason at all, and I'll just be like, get out of my life. And then some, I'll just be like, oh my god, you inspire me so much. And there's no, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's some weird, maybe it's just the time of day I wake up and I haven't had my coffee or something, or I don't know. And so I apologize to anyone who I've accidentally just like deleted out of my realm. But it's I just get less social media, more fun, more real life. We've all been trapped inside for too long on our phones. That's what it is.
I know. Well, you know what's cool, Mike? As I just heard this quote the other day, like literally like last week. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
And
totally.
I was like, man, you know, because like in our world, everybody's always comparing guitar players and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Like in the sense of like finding the genre you like, I get it. But like you can't. It's like, you know, apples and bananas kind of thing. It's like everybody's, even if you've got two different blues players, in my mind, like they're gonna approach it differently.
Telling different stories, you know. Yeah. And what I'm saying is, I am self-aware that it is silly. Like, and I'm not that serious about it. What I am serious about is I don't like how people hate on guitar players, because what is, even in your same community, say like fingerstyle, like everyone will just like pile on and hate like one guy or this guy or whatever is fashionable. The growth of anyone in a community helps everyone in the community.
Oh, 100%.
You know, it's like, especially in a style like modern fingerstyle guitar, which is still in its infancy, to the point where, you know, very few kind of like guitar courses at like, you know, schools and colleges and stuff even teach it, and the teachers don't even know how to play it, so they can't teach it yet.
Right.
You know, it's so small, and we're still in this kind of growth phase. So it's great when, you know, it's great when anyone kind of explodes, you know, and everyone should kind of get with that, I think. Yeah, it's the guitarists are a strange bunch.
We are strange. We are very strange.
It's just, especially in the digital realm, because this COVID thing has trapped everyone without getting any energy from an audience or anything like that. So we yeet our emotions into the digital sphere, but there's nothing that to complete that circle. Whereas on tour, you're maybe a bit nervous or whatever, and you just pour everything into a show, and then it comes back, and then you meet people, and it's a social thing, and the energy comes back. And we don't have that online, so we start to get really resentful. It's a chemical thing.
Yeah, dude.
Our own resentment from being stuck indoors or in the digital space. So when I meet a guitar player who has no desire to get outside of their home studio, you know, upload thing, I think it's quite a shame, because I think they're missing out on a lot of that joy of that experience, that cyclical experience, you know.
And for the most part, it's a pretty damn positive community, you know.
Oh yeah.
It's really nice to see how many people are pumping positivity out into the universe, and, you know, like kind of pushing, you know, other guitarists up who maybe need a little bit more of a spotlight. Or
who's great with that is Tommy Emmanuel.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
People like that. I mean, he's like the nicest guy in the business, and he's also the best. So what does that tell you? Well, it tells you that you know, you need to sort your shit out and start treating people nice.
Yeah.
And you encounter that a lot in any industry that involves attention. So in the attention economy, any creative industry, people who are starting out will generally act human and pleasant and be themselves and be honest. And then once they get a taste of success, some people will start to turn into feeling like they've, you know, they deserve more, or the ego thing kicks in. But then it's the people at the top of the ladder who are, they revert back to just being the nicest people ever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always a shame when you see people behaving in quite a rude way in the community. And it is a small minority. But it's nice to have the perspective, or at least get the opportunity to spend time with people who are at the top of their game, and see how they treat those around them. You know, I think that's really really important.
Let's talk about Tommy a little bit, because so I had Joe Robinson on a few weeks back. What a lovely dude. Talk about another lovely person.
Yeah, I
But
like great. I feel really
yeah.
bad. Me and some friends raided one of his live streams, um, just saying some shit or something while he was trying to play, and I think we put him off a bit. So sorry.
But he's great, because he was like, you should get Tommy on your show, man. He would totally do it, I bet. And I was like, all right, well, I'll send his management an email. And
Yeah, we have the same manager, so you know,
okay.
I'll happy give him a nudge if it's helpful to you. No
Yeah,
problem. I can certainly help in any way I can.
that would be great. Yeah, I didn't hear back from him. That was over 2 months ago that I emailed.
Yeah, it's so management in this kind of realm is just like book shows now. Book shows,
Yeah.
book shows. Sorry, I'm busy booking shows because everyone's booking shows. So it's just it's kind of chaos, and everyone's trying to get the night at the venue that works when you have every band on the planet trying to do the same thing. So,
oh, dude, totally.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about him and maybe some other influences, because I was telling you, I find what you do so unworldly, like in terms of like I would never be able.
Freak boy.
Well, I can't imagine, like I said, the patience of sitting down and arranging music like that, and to like split your brain. Like, one of my favorite musicians that splits their body and does what he does so well is like somebody like Bruce Hornsby.
Okay.
So when I hear that dude play piano, for instance, like, or like Hiromi, like, she's ridiculous. Have you ever listened to her?
Oh yeah. Back in the day, we're talking like, you know, have you heard of Hiromi? As in, like, she just emerged, you know.
Dude, yeah, it's crazy. And I think because I went to Berkeley in 2008. I don't know when she was there for a little bit, I think. And it might have been right before me, like a couple years before me. But when I first heard that one record of hers, I think it was her debut record, I was like, how is that even possible that she's playing those two things at the same time? But I feel that about you too, because
Oh, really?
there's a lot of coordination. Like, you have to have some serious coordination, especially when you're doing hands over and you're tapping and accurately hitting specific frets. And like,
Right.
so like, how long did it take you? Like, what was the first song that you worked on that you were immensely proud of, that you're like, I think I have something here with this style?
Wow. Yeah. So, well, first of all, thanks. I mean, yeah, a lot of that stuff. So the way that I've always worked is I realized pretty early on that, you know, you talk about like dedication to a craft or having the patience to achieve something. I was finding that with originals, it would be so tempting to just say, oh, in my mind, I want to get, say, a kick and this note and this harmony and this thing all at the same time, but I don't know how, so I'm going to just make a different compositional choice and move on with the song. So it was when I started doing the covers, I was locking myself into this sort of prerequisite, this box where it's like, well, I have to get this note and this thing because that's what the song is, because it's a cover. So when I started doing the first like 2 or 3 covers, that's when I developed the chops in the right hand. I call them like micro techniques, you know, the idea of being able to say, well, how do I get, you know, a downstroke and a kick drum sound at the same time? You have to figure it out because that's what's in the song you're covering. So I figure out a way of doing it and then check, that's in my little bank now. So when I come to do the next original, I can draw on that when I'm making compositional choices, and the whole process will take a much shorter amount of time. Multiply that across like the career so far, that's why you might see things as being, oh, it looks so complicated what you're doing, but all it is just drawing from one of these micro techniques that's become muscle memory from problem solving back in the day, right? So yeah, and your question, because I talk for England, your question was a song you're proud of, right? That you covered, like you said, a cover.
Well, anything that you felt like you worked on that was, you know, the path.
Yeah, well, actually, I could be cliche and say that I did this cover of Somebody That I Used to Know by Gautier, which was the first thing I really released, and it went viral, and it kind of spawned my whole career. In fact, recently I did a 10-year anniversary cover of it with Tommy Emmanuel.
Yeah,
but actually, a song that I did early on that I was really proud of is a song called "The Impossible," and it's the whole idea behind it was to sound really mechanical, like lots of machinery and cogs, and there's a lot of like weird sounds and things that I kind of figured out for that I think have inspired a lot of guitar players that I've talked to as well. It's certainly not original. I mean, I would take in influences from people like Pino Forestieri in Italy, Stefano Barone in Italy. There's some amazing Italian guitar players that are really experimenting with, playing behind the nut and all that kind of stuff. But I put a lot of rhythmic practice into that song. So it was the first song where I had, say, a time signature in this hand and a time signature in this hand, or 2 time signatures in this hand and 2 time signatures in this hand, all kind of playing simultaneously in whatever format, be it taps or hammers or picks or whatever. And figuring out how to do that I felt that was a noticeable, like, okay, well, now we're into the next phase of playing, So that was the first original composition that I was quite proud of in a technical development sense. And also I really enjoy playing that tune to this day live. It's got there's a good version of it on my live album. I released a live album last year, and I played it live in Florida on one of the tracks, and it's got a cool atmosphere. It's really spooky. It's just different. It's not the cliche la di da di da 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 kind of finger style. It's very much just like, we will suck your blood, blah. Kind of,
yeah, man, that's funny that every time when you just said that, I thought of that Radiohead tune off of
oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think what's so fun about watching guitarists like yourself and Tommy is like first and foremost, that you guys put a lot of sweat equity into the music that you're working on. So like, yeah, so what you're playing, on stage in front of us is not something that you just like woke up and like, I'm gonna throw this together today. Like, there was a lot of intention in how you arrange music, because like, so you were talking about university, so like, music school. Did you go to music school? Okay.
It was. I did music related subjects, and they were always slightly hybrid. So my degree, which is like college in America, was in something called commercial music, which was basically like the lecturers in the course figuring out how to, coffee burps.
They happen.
Beautiful. Figuring out how to teach people how to be a professional musician, not just learn music, or, so it was a kind of music business hybrid, which I suppose has served me well because that's what I do. However, honestly, I spent a lot of the course just private practicing and figuring out this style, because that was the kind of age I was when I started it. So yeah, there wasn't, I did have 10 lessons with an amazing guitar teacher called Stuart Ryan over in Bath in the UK. And he really went deep with me into the music of Eric Roche, who's a late, great acoustic guitar player here in the UK, or in Ireland rather, who unfortunately passed away before I even discovered his music. And that definitely helped set me on the path of being like, this is something that I want to do professionally, for sure.
How did you where does your harmony knowledge come from? Because like I can tell that you have a pretty extensive like knowledge of harmony in and of itself.
Just listening to music. I don't I very rarely consciously draw from so when I learned guitar, I learned in standard tuning like everyone else. But professionally, I play every song almost in a different tuning. Mm-hmm. So in terms of the patterns and being able to visualize, say, oh, okay, this is this interval or whatever in a pattern, that would never be relevant, because I was more just experimenting. And then just through listening to lots of music, you just learn the harmonies through sort of like, oh, that's the harmony from this song, and that makes you feel like this, and then over time you just kind of follow your ear. I think I'm certainly not the most knowledgeable on paper. Like, if you were to quiz me, it'll be like a muscle that I haven't flexed for a long time. But the ear is good, that's kind of how it's done. And it has to be like that. If you're working in all these different tunings, you have to go where your ear tells you to go. Otherwise, you're just going to waste so much time. Well, no time at the guitar is wasted. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, for sure. What tunings? Yeah. What tunings are you mostly in? I'm curious.
So a big one is DAD-GAD, which is really obvious. So D-A-D-G-A-D. But a tuning that I've been using right now is D-A-E-E-A-A.
Oh, interesting.
So it's interesting because you have two sets of notes that chorus that are the same. So it sounds like a 12 string. C sharp. So C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, E, B, E is another one, which is a C sharp minor 9 chord open. And I have maybe like 4 or 5 tunes in that tuning. That's really cool because you have a semitone gap in between the middle strings, so you can incorporate that into nice runs using the open strings, which sounds cool. And also you have a power chord between 2 sets of bass notes, so you have a root and a fifth, and then a root and a fifth. So you know, when you're flying all around the guitar like this, it's very practical sometimes to have a root and a fifth that you can just wail on with one finger, you know, so that helps fill the space sometimes. And standard tuning I've used in one cover song I've done, but I would like to write in it more. I feel like ever since I started touring with Tommy Emmanuel a lot, because I've had the great privilege to open for him on a bunch of his tours now recently. And we're going out next year, by the way. We're doing January in the States and February in Europe. And I've been super inspired by watching him side stage every night and just getting a real mastery of the instrument. You know, he says about me in like interviews and things like, Mike does everything that I don't do, which is really sweet of him to spin it that way. But what it actually means is he does everything and I just do one tiny little thing. You know, which is really true. You know, I do my thing and try and have fun with life. That's the goal, right?
Yeah,
Don't care about numbers or social media or anything like that too much, but just try and have fun and make people happy doing my little thing. Tommy is just a bible of love and knowledge, and there will never be another Tommy.
yeah, man. He's such a blessing on the industry, man. I mean, it's like, and not only because of his music, but like his personality.
Yeah, I mean, did you speak to Joe when you were talking to Joe? You were talking about Tommy, I guess, because you mentioned he said to come on. He probably shared the same kind of anecdotes, which is he's just the best.
Yeah, and I hear that about him. I hear that about Robin Ford too.
Oh,
Just
yeah?
like, you know, like I don't know. I mean, I've never met Robin, I've never met Tommy, but like, and there's people like, you know, Eric Johnson that you just know that dude is super chill.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Eric Johnson did it. Took Andy McKee on tour, and he said that he was a blast.
yeah, that's so cool. So, Mike, are you a multi-instrumentalist? Like, do you play the kit too? Like, because where does the rhythm stuff come from
Right.
too?
So I can in a basic way. I have no stick technique because I've never owned a kit or anything. But in terms of the whole tapping on the thighs, you know, and the feet and stuff, I can play drums. My dad, I said he's a trumpet player, but he also does percussion, so he has congas and bongos and things like that. So when I was really young, I remember just doing that, and it was very much a hand tappy thing, which translates perfectly to the guitar actually.
Oh yeah.
And actually, a lot of the, I don't know if I've told anyone this before, but the right hand technique that I do on the acoustic as percussion comes from driving a car. Right, so this sounds really weird. So in the UK, we drive on the right.
Right.
So I've got my hand on the wheel, and on a hot day, I'll have the window down. And if the radio's on or I'm listening to music, I'm like tapping along with the beat on, like, imagine the window's down. So this is like the window ledge of the car.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. But then when there's a kick drum, I started doing this, right? So I was just like, dun, 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 dun. And that technique just translates perfectly onto the acoustic guitar, you know, in terms of tapping and kicks and things like that. So that just subconsciously came from having basic percussive rhythm understanding, basic kit understanding, and then just time and time again, just going for drives and yeah, weird one.
Yeah. No, that stuff. Anytime people can pull that off and make it sound effectively like a cajon or something almost.
You have to understand how rhythm works. You know, you have to understand, like, okay, why does this sound funky? Okay, why does this make you want to dance? Why does this sound really boring? Why does this beat not do anything for me? And it's you know, the syncopation and the notes between the notes, and you know, maybe you don't have to have a kick on the one every time, you know, like maybe you don't have to have a snare on the two. Maybe you can go reggaeton, you know, like you need to listen to a lot of music and understand stuff on a basic level, but then just groove with it. I remember I was in Cartagena, Colombia back in, I don't know which trip it was. I've been there a few times, but I met this kid on the street, and he was literally just a kid, and he was just beatboxing. And I just started, like, he came up to me because I was sound checking at an outdoor gig or something, and he ended up coming on stage during the set, and we just did a little thing, and it was very much just like, okay, well, how does Colombian music work? Same in the Dominican Republic with like merengue. How does that work? And you can kind of absorb things from the people you're around. I love absorbing things from people, not just like YouTube tutorials. I like being in the cultures. So I love traveling so much. Sorry, I'm talking so much. Hi.
No. That's why you're here. I want you to talk. Everybody, there's a bunch of people chiming in, and I just had to go back here. So Rosemary was saying, COVID testing, we need music back here in the USA.
Yeah.
Get people out to watching music.
Yeah, see you in the USA soon, Rosemary.
Yeah, and then Jana was saying the same thing. Please. So
it's all looking good. Like I don't know if they were here at the beginning when I was saying that that there'll be visas coming soon, and there's very little that there's no reason why we wouldn't get those visas. I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about the process, but because
it's probably involved. It's pretty involved.
It involves teams of fancy people with expensive offices in New York doing things to make this happen, and it's like the blessing with the Moody Blues family and the Justin Hayward family is that Justin's been a professional musician since the late 50s, so he knows the people that get things done. If it was just me by myself, I would have no chance of getting a visa until maybe next spring.
Man.
But we got an upgrade because of I'm just very, very lucky to be working with this absolute legend of a musician and an industry figurehead.
Yeah. I saw them a long time ago. I might have been in high school, and I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I went with my girlfriend at the time, and I think it was Jethro Tull.
Oh, cool.
And them, and maybe Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
That sounds like a sick tour.
Yeah, it was fun, man. It was.
Yeah.
I grew up. My older brother used to listen to Jethro all the time, and so I got really like
the winners of best metal album at the Grammys.
Isn't that hilarious? I know.
Yeah,
so funny. But I mean that band, there's so many great songs. Like I cut my teeth a lot on like songwriting and form and analysis and everything based around like 90s grunge and Jethro Tull and the Grateful Dead kind of thing. It's like
it's the same scene. Like I've learned so much from Justin just learning his songs.
Yeah.
And also he has the best ear out of anyone I've ever worked with in terms of sound. So I mean, they were the first prog rock band, the Moody Blues. They were the first band to use a Mellotron, right?
Really?
Yeah. Like they're literally that's their thing, right? Nights of My Saturn. For anyone listening, that is played on what's called a Mellotron, which is like an orchestra in a box, tape reels, and you press a button and it plays a sample of people playing. It's crazy, crazy old prog tech. Just we have like 19 or 20 guitars on that tour, and he has almost a different guitar for every song, because he's like, that song needs to be on this guitar because of this reason, and I'm like, cool, okay. Do you think I've got one guitar?
What are you playing on that gig? Are you playing electric or acoustic?
Both. So I have my acoustic, which I would show you, but it's in the shop right now. I'm getting it repaired because pre-tour check. It's getting it physical right now with an electrician super nerd here in Bristol. Shout out to Martin Bailey. I don't think he even has the internet. He's like one of those guys, Yeah, it's a guitar made by Andreas Kuntz in Germany. The unfortunately named Andreas Kuntz, Cuntz. It's a great name for international travel to the States. But I used that for my opening set and then for most of Justin's set. But then the first tour we did back in 2013, he gifted me a Tom Anderson Telly, which is what I've used for his electric stuff. So I do get to do a little bit of shredding, just a little tiny bit.
Nice.
Yeah, but that lives in Nashville, so I only get to see it at rehearsals and the tour, and then it goes back to Nashville and lives there. So I'm looking forward to playing it again. It's beautiful, man. It's a really beautiful Telly. The neck.
What's the finish on it? Like what color?
It's black, and it's got the kind of tortoise shell, but not tortoise shell, kind of mother. Or is it what? I can't. No, it's just a white scratch plate. It's just black and white Telly. It's been so long, maple fingerboard. It just feels great. And it sounds great too. And but this guitar as well. This is my favorite electric that I have, which is in fact, hold on, can I show? I got to show you it.
Yeah, man, grab it, man. Yeah,
So
I'd love to see it.
This is by Aleuther in your neck of the woods, more or less, New Jersey, kind of close. Well,
Okay.
relatively close. Rick Toon. Now, this guy, Rick Toon, came down to meet me and Steve Sugarwood, our mutual friend, in Jacksonville, and he brought a bunch of his guitars, and this one ended up coming home with me. And this is insane. Like, this thing, it's called a Goshawk, like Goshawk.
Okay.
And this is the final prototype for this guitar design that he created. And it is basically, it's the production model, because this was the final prototype. You know, the one where he's like, this is perfect, let's start creating them. And the cool thing about this is, there's a few things. It's got a 10-way pickup selector.
What?
Yeah, so it's a 5-way blade, like normal, but then it flicks up and has different configurations. So so many configurations, you know, these two and this, these two and this and this series parallel, the works. It can sound like a Strat, like a Tele, like a PRS, like a Les Paul, like it's insanely accurate. So I used it on a few sessions this last year. You know, like I said, I don't have a Fender. This'll do it. It doesn't have a whammy, but other than that, this'll do it. You know.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know if you know Strandberg guitars.
I do. Yeah.
So you know they're famous for this kind of
carve. Yeah.
neck. I may be wrong, but I believe Rick did it first, and I believe that there might be some connection there. I could be completely mistaken. However, it's slightly different. It's not as extreme, but it fits my hand absolutely perfectly. Beautiful flame maple situation. You can see there it captures the light. And it just shreds, man. It really shreds. You know, patented bridge design there. You can see we've got slightly longer scale length there.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful, man. It's I've never played an electric guitar like it at all. Really highly recommend it.
How do you feel when you play like a fan fret guitar? Is it weird to you, or does it feel like?
I have a fan fret here. Oh, the pickup's just fallen off, so I won't take it off its stand. Yeah, the magnetic pickup's just like hanging, so I'm not going to touch that right now. Yeah, I like a subtle fan. You know, I can play with a subtle fan. Anything beyond that, I think, is just more of an aesthetic thing. I don't think. I think the benefits of an extreme fan can also be found with just experimenting with string gauges and things like that. So yeah, nothing against it, but you know, I know some guitar companies have like crazy fans like this, but I have a few with some relatively subtle fans.
Yeah, I'm always curious about
those only fans. Yeah.
I'm always curious about those guitars because I've only tried to play one once, and it was at NAMM years ago.
Good old NAMM.
Yeah, and it didn't feel super comfortable. Like he was like, you got to not look at it. Don't look at the fretboard, kind of thing. But I can understand, like, when you're doing an instrument that has bass strings and guitar strings, how that makes sense for the scale length and all that.
Yeah, well, on this guitar, I have the whole point of the guitar is, in fact, you know what? I'm gonna just cradle it gently, and I'll show it to you.
I'd love to see it. This
is a semi-baritone by Nick Benjamin. I'm just going to hold this pickup because it's hanging out there. So this is, you can see here we've got actual bass tuners on the bottom two strings.
Oh, neat, man.
And I don't know if you can see, but on the bridge, on the bottom two strings, there are separate pickups. Can you see?
Oh, yeah, I can see it, yeah.
So there's there's separate output for the bottom strings, meaning that I can run that to a bass amp or to, you know, an octave pedal or whatever, and totally separate the bass. So the fan fret on that's pretty subtle. It does help a little bit with certain tunings and maintaining that, but you know, there's so many other things like having separate pickups and a separate output that will help with certain things. So it's easy to play. I like that, but I wouldn't go any more extreme than that.
Yeah, it's cool, man. That's cool. We had another person saying, fabulous interview. Thank you, Alec. Use Mike's music to test and turning up the PA systems. His PA systems.
Wow. Okay. Thanks.
That's pretty sweet.
Apologies to the people that have to listen to that.
Well, I wanted to ask you one more thing before we head out and everything. Is there anything that you're working on right now that's extremely challenging you? that you feel like, man, I gotta put a lot more work into this? Is there something that?
Yeah, I started doing a Dirty Loops cover.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah, exactly. And I nearly finished it as well. So needless to say, that's really hard.
I
But
bet.
yeah, I have a Patreon, and I think this was a while ago. Last year, I shared them a clip of the progress, but I had to play it slowly, and then speed up the video to show them like how it's gonna sound when I can play it,
Oh
because
man.
I'm having to learn it so slowly. And I'm not going overboard with some of the stuff, but the important lines, like the bass players, like lines and the harmonies and stuff, you have to distill it to its important stuff. But it is very much a Mike Dawes thing.
Mm.
So I don't know if I'll ever finish it, but if I do, it'll end up on an album. But that's probably going to be the hardest thing that I'll have ever done. But the thing that I'm really enjoying right now is I'm working on an All Along the Watchtower arrangement, but in a very different style, just because it's such a simple 3-chord song. And when you have a 3-chord song, in the same way that video games that we were talking about earlier, when there's too much choice, it can be quite overwhelming. When you limit your options in terms of what the harmony's doing, it really lets you be creative with your choices. So I'm like, well, how can I make a 3-chord song as an instrumental last for 3 or 4 minutes and maintain its interest? So I'm pulling out all the stops with like, okay, well, why don't we go into a swing breakdown here? Or, okay, why don't we, shift octaves here and change the melody here? Why don't we add a solo here? Why don't we do a key change? I don't know. There's so many interesting options when you have that creative limitation. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. It goes back to the same chord progression we spoke about earlier. It's in a different key, but I mentioned the E minor D C D kind of classic rock thing. That's All Along the Watchtower, dude. It's the same thing.
Man.
But how can we make that interesting? And also, how can we make it work at a show? Because dude, if I can just be on like a tour bus in like America and like go and play a gig and play All Along the Watchtower, that's just so cool.
Dude. Everybody would love that, dude.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things that's just like, oh yeah, I'm in the music industry. Cool. It's like playing. I don't know, man. It's like playing what's that John Denver song? Country Road, West Virginia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like playing that. It's like one of those Americanisms that. And as a guitar player with the Hendrix reference, so things like that excite me. Not necessarily the most mainstream songs right now, because most things in the charts I don't particularly relate to. But these kind of moments of inspiration come from more obscure things for me. Like the amount of time I'd have to spend investing in learning a Dirty Loop song as a fingerstyle thing is ridiculous. Like it'll take months and months and months and months to do, and way less people will care about it than if it was an MJ cover. That's just the fact of life, right? Because of the number of people in the world who know MJ. So I try and maintain a mix of obscure and relatively mainstream songs. Do a Periphery cover. It's like not loads of people know Periphery in terms of how many people know John Mayer.
Right.
So yeah, but they take the same amount of effort. So it's interesting. Creative process and choices and decisions and things like that.
Yeah. Dude, if there's anybody that I would see being able to pull off a Dirty Loops like solo guitar arrangement,
I couldn't have said anything now.
You,
because I might get defeated by it. I got to. I won't say which song it is, but I got to like the second chorus. So what I might do is just cheap out and like. Because with instrumental arrangements, it's all very well and good staying true to the original, but if that doesn't then work in a solo fingerstyle context, you should make musical decisions to make it work. So, I might do a similar thing that I did with Superstition by Stevie Wonder, which is do an amount of the song relatively accurately and then just take it into a different realm. Yeah. And I think that's probably what I'm going to do with this. Like I might bring it down and just start doing a loop thing or an ambient thing. And that's another thing which goes back to what I was saying about realizing it's okay to make creative decisions that other people haven't done. You don't need to look for approval in what the community is doing. Some people think that because I've used a loop pedal a few times, I'm a loop guitarist, and therefore they don't understand that most of it is done live. yet that is a musical choice. It's not done to please the social media gods, right? So hopefully it will translate and people will enjoy it when it's done. Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
dude,
what
like honestly, it's like me listening to like Wayne Krantz. I love, Wayne Krantz? I'm sure you probably do.
yeah, not intimately. Well,
So
definitely not
I'm a
intimately.
huge I'm a huge fan of his. And
Okay, cool.
he'll do like covers, like he did Tom York's song Black Swan.
Mm.
But it's like a nod to that stuff. It's like he's not gonna do the whole song verbatim. So like if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get to
It's an
if
art,
you
not
get
a
to the
science, right? Yeah.
yeah, and if you get to the second chorus and then you
Timeline.
do your own and you do your own thing, once you get to that second chorus, dude, I mean, no one's gonna care. Like the fact that you're like even attempting to do that and like bring it to life, I think is super rad. That's awesome, man. I love the fearlessness that you embody with that stuff, man.
Well, dude, I appreciate that, but it's really all about what do you want to do with your life. It's like, and there's a lot of players in the scene who I know for a fact will be spending their time doing things because these songs are popular. Because and total respect. And obviously, I'm very privileged to be in a position where I'm not grinding that at the moment. But if I was starting out now, obviously I would have to do some popular songs, right? Whether I loved them or not. But whatever covers end up coming next, it will certainly be. There'll be a nice mix of the obscure. It's like I just love playing. Like, who doesn't want to play songs they love?
Yeah.
So it's like if a song inspires you, if a song inspires me, and I think it'll make a good, effective arrangement, then I'll spend time to do it. And but again, that's not supposed to sound disrespectful to anyone that just sticks to the top 10 thing, because I understand that is in instrumental music. In the music industry right now is kind of pretty in a dire situation. So maximum respect to anyone that spends time to create anything on a solo instrument. It does take a lot of courage to do that, especially live. But yeah, I appreciate what you're saying there, and yeah, hopefully if anyone's watching this and is inspired to pick up the solo fingerstyle thing, then maybe start with a song that you absolutely adore, and you'll feel that passion come through your fingers when you're playing it, and you'll get so much joy out of it. You'll hate the song by the end of the process. Because you'll have dissected it so much. It's like, dude, the songs I've covered, I can't stand them anymore. Just because I know too much about them. It's like The Emperor Has No Clothes or whatever.
I mean, I have to one of these days, I'll have to like just get like a lesson with you and just like talk about how to approach starting to try to do it.
Well, this tour with Justin Hayward will come through Maryland. I believe it's we're going to be in Annapolis, and usually that kind of gig we have a hotel relatively close by. With Justin over the years, I figured out he likes certain cities for certain hotels. So there's that whole DC area. I believe we normally rock up to a hotel in like kind of Pentagon City or something like that.
Yeah.
Which isn't too far.
No, that's not far from me. But I mean, just to demystify, like, so my brain, for me, not that doesn't take a lot of work to do what you do, but like, because it obviously does, but like, for me, I need to like realize that, dude, you can start to get into this stuff if you want. Like, pull the veil.
Dude, it's so accessible. All it is beat by beat.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It's like start with a cover. Do what I did, like what I was saying earlier. Get your techniques done by looking at covers, because then you can go beat by beat and be patient. Maybe you can get one section done in a full day's work. Beat by beat, what's going on? Okay, what's the drums doing? What's the harmony doing? What's the bass doing? Now we have YouTube. You can slow songs down. So easy to do now. Right back in the day, I was like, I couldn't do that. So it was
rewind. I know.
Listening, it took a long time. But there's no real excuse now. And then once you have a few techniques, then you can start being creative with that, with originals. And also, I was doing Sunday night Zoom lessons. Like, I had 2 slots every Sunday. They might all be sold out now, but if anyone watches this, I'm going to stop them temporarily at the end of August to go on tour. So if there's like, maybe there's like 1 slot left or something, but then I might pick them up again in the winter. That's a lot of the stuff I do with people, is that teaching them the right hand techniques, giving them the shortcuts. They don't have to spend that time. And then I have a bunch of tuition stuff as well on the old website, like video courses and like everyone does now. Shred education.
That's great. I love that. All right. Well, let's do this thing. So I do this thing, Mike, where I call it the lightning round get down.
Oh, sweet. Okay, I thought you were gonna do like the last dab, like on Hot Ones.
Oh, dude, I wish, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I love hot stuff. Do you like spicy stuff?
I like it. Can I tolerate it? Is another question. But, let's go out for wings or something because I love in the States going out for wings because you guys do it right. Over here we don't have any good food here, so we don't
That's
make
not
it.
true.
It is true. It is very true. So
we came over. My wife and I came over. We were in London and we had some great Indian food.
yeah, okay, so we do have good Indian. Okay, so people come to the UK and they're like, "Do I have COVID? Because I can't taste anything." It's like, no, that's just it's not like that. Yeah, but in America, it's you guys have some pretty delicious snacks.
Cuisine. Yeah, dude, I'll put wasabi on goldfish crackers. Like, I love hot stuff.
Goldfish crackers are great. I love it.
Yeah, man.
You might think I'm a Philistine, but I love Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh yeah, I do too, man.
Dude, let's go. Let's do B-dubs. We don't have that here. We don't really have buffalo wings here in the UK. So
yeah, I'm in, man.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get Michael in as well. Let's have a whole guitar nerd wing fest.
Oh heck yeah, dude. Yeah, I love their habanero wings. They're so delicious, dude. Like, they're hot, but they are so delicious. Oh
yeah.
All right, so I do this thing called the lightning round get down.
Okay.
Where I put on a metronome at about 110 BPM, just a cruising altitude of 110 BPM.
Okay.
Just for some suspense, Yep.
But
so 10 questions. It's like a this or that thing, okay?
Wow, this is fun. Okay. I like this.
So if you want, you can explain your answers. I love hearing explanations. If you don't want to, you can just cruise through them. Okay?
Wow, okay. Right.
Lennon or McCartney?
McCartney, because of the band.
Okay. Laundry or dishes? What would you prefer to do?
Laundry, the smell.
Okay. Goonies or Stranger Things?
God damn it. I have to say Goonies. I have to. I love Stranger Things though. Both.
They're both great.
Yeah.
Rosewood or Ebony for your fretboard?
Ebony.
Okay. Who was the better Batman? Michael Keaton, Christian Bale?
Are those the only two choices of all the Batman?
Yeah, we're not going to get into like
Adam West.
George Clooney or yeah, that's too old school.
I'll say Christian Bale simply just it was my era and where is she? Like it's just a meme.
All right, cool. Olympics are happening, right? So gymnastics or swimming?
Gymnastics because it's just great to watch and terrifying at the same time.
Oh my gosh, dude. Nick Drake or Michael Hedges?
Hedges.
Okay. Sweater or hoodie?
Hoodie.
Ninjas or pirates?
I'm gonna say pirates only because I'm in Bristol, which is Blackbeard was from here, so I've got to represent. And we've all spent the past year and a half dressing like ninjas, so it's time for a change.
That's true. Great answer. All right, and then the last one, Mike. If you could take one album,
okay,
and erase it from your memory, like you've never heard it before, just so you could go back and listen to it for the first time again right now and enjoy it, what record would that be?
Dang. Rock in Rio, Iron Maiden.
Okay. So how come?
Because it was the first time I heard a live album and I was just like, oh my God, this is what live gigs are like. I was too young to go to a thing like that. 250,000 screaming Brazilians. Like, you kidding me? Right. And I think that was part of me being like, I want to do tours. I want to be in front of audiences, and that sounds fun. Yeah. That and the Guns N' Roses live album. Those two.
Okay. That's good. Yeah. Man, good answers. All good answers. You made it through. Welcome to the other side.
I like that. Fun little thing.
Yeah, man. So, Mike, tell everybody where they can find your Patreon and everything so we can direct them there.
Yeah, totally. Well, obviously, during the pandemic, there hasn't been any touring or anything, so I've been a bit more active on my Patreon, which is just /Mike Dawes, Hangout, AMA, all that stuff. A few little, behind-the-scenes things going on there. But I have a lot of stuff going on the website, tuition stuff. I've got actually a new live album, which you can see just there, a tab book, a USB course, which is there, all kinds of things like that. But if you want to get together and learn in the most efficient way, if you're interested in what I do, then do check out they're called lockdown lessons, but we need to change the name, every Sunday night over Zoom. It's been a blast meeting the guys on there, and yeah, I hope I'll bring those back after the tour as well. And yeah, the tour USA with Justin Hayward in September, October, and then with Tommy Emmanuel West Coast January and Europe February.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Mike, thanks so much for doing this, man. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you, and I really, really appreciate it.
Great to meet you. Lots of fun, and yeah, nice to talk about guitar and stuff. And good luck with the channel and the rest of the episodes. Who have you got coming up next?
So the next episode is going to be this guy Max from Zero Amplification. So I try to do like builders that I really am into, pedals, amps, all that stuff, and then like musicians and but yeah, he's going to be on, and we're going to talk about like building amps. And he's been doing this thing where, you know, doing that whole like film projector amplifier.
Oh, okay.
So like the Blake Mills thing where you can take those old was it what's the name of the company? It's like How or Pal, I can't remember, but
I'll have to check out the episode and learn.
Yeah. So he builds old like you know, film projectors into amplification, you know. But yeah, it's cool, man. It's so we're gonna do that, and then I got a bunch of people, man. I think Lucy Woodward, you know her from, so she's gonna be on. Man, who else is coming on? I got Eric Shankman from the Spin Doctors, the guitar player from the Spin Doctors, is gonna be on.
I have to check some of this stuff out, and I'll go back and check out some older episodes as well, because again, like it's I got really into like podcasts. I actually have I started a podcast last year with Tone with Amp. Actually, it's called Mike Dawes Has a Podcast.
Yeah,
creative I am, and we're working on season 2 as well. Hopefully, I can get some stuff filmed before the tour starts. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun talking about, you know, connecting with people about music, and yeah, appreciate you doing what you're doing, man. Best of luck with it.
I love hearing people's stories, man. It's so fun. So I appreciate you for doing it. And
I'll see you in Maryland.
All right, yeah, hang on real quick, Mike. But everybody, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time.
It's all love.